Let's call this meeting of the Columbia County Board of Commissioners to order for this Tuesday, September the 20th, 2016. This time I'd like to ask our District 1 Commissioner, Doug Duncan, to offer up our invocation.
Thank you. Please pray with me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we just praise you again for this great day. We thank you for the many blessings you give Columbia County and the families here. Father, we pray for the family that lost a child this weekend. Comfort and peace through a situation that I can't even comprehend. Pray that you be with us now. Bless this meeting. Bless the decisions that need to be made. May they all glorify thee. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a quorum tonight with all 5 commissioners present. We have the minutes of our previous meeting of September the 6th, 2016. If you're satisfied with their content, we'll accept a motion for their approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion and approval. Any items needing clarification? Not all in favor, please raise your right hand. Mr. Johnson, I believe we have a couple of changes to the agenda. Do you have anything other than the elimination of the G2A item?
I don't have anything else, Mr. Chairman.
That is Mr. Richard Presley decided not to speak concerning a massage license appeal. Mr. Bob Clymer has initially expressed a desire to speak concerning a subdivision of Hardy McManus. Bob, would you mind waiting? Where are you? Would you mind waiting until we get to that item? Thank you. Going now to our special recognition. Always a pleasure here to recognize a county employee for their extraordinary service. The employee of the month this month is Bonnie King with the coroner's office. I don't know who's making this presentation. I believe Commissioner Duncan has got the plaque. And whoever would like to come stand for this presentation, we have our coroner, Vernon Collins. Doctor's Hospital.
Vernon Collins, say a few words.
Bonnie's been, like he said, coroner's office for 10 years. I'd like to thank her. Everybody wants to. I have a fine folks.
Day off with pay, is that right?
Yeah. That was a little different.
Congratulations, Bonnie. We also have with us tonight from Columbia County Chamber of Commerce Youth Leadership under the direction of Jeremy Frick and ex-commissioner Frank Spears. Wonder, Frank, if we could get your group to stand and introduce themselves and tell us the school they represent.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. This is a wonderful program that the Columbia County Chamber of Commerce puts on every single year. And we take these students, several hundred apply. I believe this class has got 28 students. We've got about 18 or 19 here tonight. They're all very busy. But every single month, they do something different. Last month was law enforcement. We spent the day with the sheriff in the morning, went out to Fort Gordon, health care. And we require them to go to 2 government meetings. This is one of the 2. And the second will be the school board, and we're always excited to do this. So I'm going to ask each student to stand up. I'm going to pass you the mic. The chairman has requested that you state your name and what school you go to. So all the students stand up.
My name is Luke Yelton, and I represent both Harlem High School and Augusta University.
My name is Jonathan Ford, and I represent Augusta Christian Schools.
My name is Sam Knight. I go to Evans High School.
My name is Shelby Plooster, and I go to Evans High School.
My name is Brenna Allen, and I go to Evans High School.
My name is Madison Shum, and I go to Grovetown High School.
Reese Baker, and I go to Evans High School.
I'm Jace Combs, and I go to Grovetown High School.
I'm Jamie Stafford, and I go to Lakeside.
Alex Halls, and I go to Grovetown High School.
I'm Ian Waldron, and I go to Greenbrier High School.
I'm Shreyu Umapthi, and I go to Lakeside High.
I'm Hannah Jones, and I go to Greenbrier High School.
I'm Lily Howard, and I go to Greenbrier High School.
I'm Brooklyn Haley, and I go to Lakeside High School.
I'm Corinne Smith, and I go to Harlem High School.
My name is Ellie Pajo, and I am homeschooled.
My name is John McCraith, and I go to Westminster.
My name is Victoria Everett, and I go to Greenbrier High School.
My name is Matt Fry. I go to Greenbrier High.
Thank you for being here. As all of you know, we ask you to tell the school that you represent, because none of us acts alone. Anything we do, good or bad, is a reflection on some people we're connected with. You need to keep that in mind as you go through this training and through this leadership, that it reflects on other people other than yourself. And that puts a little pressure on you to always be at your best and do the best you can at any of these things, so that it reflects in a positive manner to those people, your family, and to those other people that you represent. But congratulations on this study, and thanks for being here. We do have another special lady here with us tonight concerning with the Miss America Co-ed system. We have with us Miss Southern States, Miss Brittany Joyner. Would you recognize Brittany? Thank you for being here with us. Move now to our consent agenda, gentlemen. These are items that's been through the necessary committee to receive the 3 votes to be put on consent. If you're satisfied with this total list here, we'll accept a motion for their approval as 1 vote.
So moved. Second.
Any items needing any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay. Go now to our debate agenda. And I believe we have a series of items from Vice Chair Allen.
Yes, sir. Under unfinished business, I would like to make a motion to approve as a second and final reading of Ordinance 16-26 to amend Chapter 90, Zoning, Article 3, Commercial, Industrial, Professional, Special, Planned Unit Development, and Planned Development Districts, Section 90-97, Allowed Uses, repealing any conflicting ordinances and establishing an effective date.
Second.
And I believe this is the allowing single-family use, a conditional use in other zonings.
That's correct.
Further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand.
I would like to make a motion to approve the second and final reading of Ordinance 16-27, amending Chapter 90, Zoning, Article 4, Supplemental Requirements, Section 90-147, Use Provisions, repealing any conflicting ordinances and establishing an effective date.
Second.
I believe this is a housekeeping item to get our definition of massage to match the state law.
Correct.
Further discussion? All in favor? Okay.
I would like to make a motion to approve the second and final reading of Ordinance 16-28, amending Chapter 90, Zoning, Article 4, Supplemental Requirements, Section 90-141, Tree Protection, repealing any conflicting ordinances and establishing an effective date.
Second.
And this is concerning tree density, more credit for new plantings and a little less for saving existing trees.
Correct.
Discussion, all in favor?
I would like to make a motion to approve the second and final reading of Ordinance 16-29, amending Chapter 90 zoning, Article 4 supplemental requirements, Section 90-139, buffers and screening, repealing any conflicting ordinances and establishing an effective date.
Second.
And this is allowing additional buffers or increased buffers to any other zoning that adjoins a residential section, correct?
Correct.
All in favor?
I would like to make a motion to approve the second and final reading of Ordinance 16-30, amending Chapter 90 zoning, Article 2 commercial, industrial, professional, special, planned unit development, and planned development districts, Section 90-97, allowed uses, to provide an effective date to repeal any conflicting ordinances.
Second. And this is to clarify the single-family residence requirements and exempting group homes under that requirement, correct?
Correct.
Question? All in favor? I believe we're completed with the second and final readings, and now we have a couple of items here that has been requested by the applicant to be withdrawn. Would you like to go ahead and make those motions?
Yes, sir, I will. I would like to make a motion to approve the request from the applicant to withdraw without prejudice regarding the rezone from R2 to PRD, tax map 071, parcel 004, 95.38 acres located at 445 River Oaks Way.
Second. This is an item that has been up for discussion for a good while. This item and the next one that will come up that's similar. We've had several people that wanted to speak on this. I would like to clarify for those that share concerning this item where we really are with this. The commission placed a condition on this application that there would have to be 2 exits and entrances with full design intersections to have this approved under the PRD. The applicant stated that they could not abide by that, and thus their request to withdraw. But I would like you to be aware of where we are today with this. Currently, they can develop this property strictly as an R2. This is single-family residence with lot sizes of a minimum of 10,000 square feet. Am I correct in that? They also are free to develop an entrance that would match the entrance to Stratford by leaving that property R1 and establishing a driveway and then doing as many lots as they could under the R1 classification, which is single-family residence with a minimum lot size of 30,000 square feet. So the fact that they're asking to withdraw the request for the PRD, the Planned Residential District or Development, and their motion to rezone R1 to R2 does not in any way stop them from developing this property. Now, there's some things to keep in mind when we talk about development. The developer here has as much right to develop this property as the people that developed Stratford and Hardy Point and Maple Ridge, High Meadows, any other development. And people coming in have as much right to buy those lots or those houses that will be constructed as did those that bought in Stratford and Hardy Point and all the other developments. If they decide to proceed under those conditions, the R2 and leave the R1, it will not come back to this board for review. It will not come back to planning and zoning as a rezoning, but it will come back as a conceptual plan and I believe plan approval.
Correct. That is correct, sir.
But there'll be no change in the zonings that's already there and has been there since, I believe, 1993, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
So the fact that they're withdrawing it or the fact that we could deny the rezonings or deny the PRD does not change the fact that they can develop the property. So something will happen. Now, ideally, Vice Chair Allen, myself had a conversation with the developer. Their plan, hopefully, or their desire, is to obtain a little more property adjacent to the large tract of land and have a few more homes so that they can justify the two separate entrances and exits. Now, ideally, from the county standpoint, and I believe I speak for the commission here, that would be the best solution. Because thinking the majority of that traffic would go out through the River Oaks Drive because it would be headed to Furious Ferry Road and be less congestion there with the entrance to Stratford. So with that said, at this time, we'll recognize Mr. Bob Clymer, if you would like to speak on behalf of the Stratford Homeowners Association. Thank you. We have had some other requests. I would like to make a request of you that if you'd like to speak. Excuse me. We have heard considerable dialogue about multifamily housing, which there was none in the beginning. We have heard about low rent housing or subsidized housing, which there was none in the beginning. We have heard about traffic issues, which there is some congestion at peak hours. Both traffic studies indicated that that road is ample to carry the traffic. There needs to be some changes. We have not got the full results of the new right turn lane yet coming out of Stratford, but I've had indications from one of our traffic engineers that has improved some of the flow. We've heard about property values. When in effect, this new development is of a higher average value than either Stratford or Hardy Point. So there's no decrease in what will be going on in that general vicinity of the county. I think the average per square foot wise, according to the tax assessor's information, is Stratford is about $83 a square foot. Hardy Point is similar. The average price of the house being in the 230s, 240s. The new development were probably more like $100 a square foot with a little larger overall home value. So I don't think that's legitimate. But if you have anything that can be brought new concerning this item, we recognize Kimberly Wintrick. Okay, thank you. John Wiles. Absolutely.
John Wilds. I live at 5058 Sussex Drive. With the new entrance that's being required.
Well, not being required, but would be a part of the development.
Okay, but there will be two entrances.
Not under what they can do. Now, let me go back and cover again. Under their request to rezone to PRD and to change the small number of houses there along Hardy McManus from R1 to R2, we require them to have two entrances.
Okay.
Full left turns in both places, decel lanes, a fully engineered entrance and exit. They said they could not afford to do two. They could only afford to do the one across from Stratford. But they have withdrawn that request. Now, again, the present zoning allows them to put an entrance, that is, if they can purchase that property, which I assume that they've got contracts now, the entrance across from the entrance to Stratford.
Okay. All right. So if you had mentioned the developer talked about buying additional property, pay for two entrances. If he stays with the current request, go R2, PRD, and R1 to R2.
That is correct.
Will that have to go back before planning and zoning?
Yes, and it would come back.
Modification of any kind like that. Will have to
It's been withdrawn, so anything at this point would have to go back to planning and zoning. Any request to rezone Would start all over.
It starts all over. He can't just ask to have these items put back on the agenda at a later date.
You'll have another public meeting if that's what you're concerned about.
I'm sorry?
You'll have another public meeting if that's what you're concerned about. You'll be able to voice your opinions at that time.
Right, but I want to also ask if, at this point, can he just put the items back on the agenda, or ask to, they have to go back through planning and zoning?
Yes, he'll make a new application, go back through planning and zoning, and it will come back to the Board of Commissioners.
That's what I'm trying to understand, is the
That's correct.
process.
But if,
I wanted to make sure that we had enough time if he decides, okay, I want to proceed with the way I have already presented it, that we know it's coming back.
it'll be essentially the same amount of time you had previously, because it'll be the same process.
Only if he rezones.
Only if
Only
it
if he's
zones.
if he builds.
I understand. If he,
Right.
you know.
He could start bulldozers
what he can do.
tomorrow as it is.
Yes,
Right.
I understand that. So I'm just trying to find out,
Mr. Richardson,
come
you have-
here, or does it go back? to planning?
I was just going to make sure that we were clear that if he stayed R2, he could go ahead and present his plans to Planning Commission and start. If he does change to PRD, the whole process starts.
Starts all over.
Right.
Okay.
Now, he is withdrawing without he is requested to withdraw without prejudice, so he can bring this back. We're not saying he can't return it, so yes, but he would have to come through this whole process
Okay.
again.
That's what I wanted to make sure, understand the process of where to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Lewis.
Chance to speak. I just want to take the opportunity to take a few minutes to just clarify mine. I think most of our concerns, I know that it's been all over the map in terms of the opposition, but I think the bulk of the opposition that you've heard to the proposal, not for the sake of just stopping development. We fully understand that that's just the way that things are headed to the county, and it's a sign that things are growing in the right direction. It's a good place to live. Most of, I think, the opposition is because of not only Stratford residents, but residents along Hardy McManus, the frustration that we currently have with current state.
Amber Alert.
So it's born out of the frustration that we currently experience on Hardy McManus, and I think the thought of adding an unprecedented four-way intersection here was the tipping point. So I know the study has been done on this intersection. From my perspective, it looked like we said we need an intersection here, so what should it look like? And that was the extent of the study, not what's the impact on neighboring community entrances that are less than 200 yards from Stratford's. So I appreciate the serious consideration that you all have taken with this intersection, and I would ask that any future intersections anywhere along Hardy McManus are given that same serious consideration until the long-term study on Hardy McManus is complete, which I understand is 6 to 12 months out, till we have a master plan for what the road needs, until we have funding in sight to do so. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Christy Lindsay.
My name is Christy Lindsay. I'm at 4702 Hardy McManus Road, probably one of two people that are the most affected by this development, because I lose my trees behind my house next to me, and then I am under the impression I'm losing 15 feet from my front yard to your turn lane. So I'm impacted. My biggest concern, you've addressed lots and lots of things. I get that they can do what they want to do, but I want to know what you're going to do about it being a FEMA floodplain. Every time it rains, that water is up back there over your knees. You're going to build new houses, they're going to sink into the ground. You're going to have another Jones Creek on your hands. What's the plan? How are you going to prevent that from happening?
We don't have a plan concerning that. That's up to the review of our planning department that will have the EPD requirements there. They're not allowed to build, well, I guess they could build in a floodplain if you get it so high enough off the ground, but we'll be following the criteria that's set forth in the state that is handed down from EPA in Washington. So that'll all be a part of the plan review, and they're not going to build anything that there's any chance of it being washed away.
That's correct. Any kind of impact to the floodplain would have to go through federal review. We don't have any kind of jurisdiction over that, so when we see that on their plans, if there's impact, we will then notify the engineer that you need to submit to the federal government for your full review, and he'll have to do that. And
Will he be held to strict accountability?
absolutely, yeah, it's the federal permit. We've got some right now that there's some plats that had to go through the federal review process that they will not approve until the federal review process has looked at it and approved on it. So, absolutely. It's actually written in the code that they cannot have a plat to sell those lots until we receive federal approval, if it's floodplain related.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you have a motion to you to allow this first part of this process to be with. Come forward.
Help if you have something in front of you. Several issues.
Would you give us your name and address?
Sorry, Todd Boudreau, live at 4511 Guilford Court in Evans, in Stratford subdivision. In each of the meetings that have occurred so far, there's been a lot of information that has not been discussed, including the first thing that I've indicated, first page there, is the Arts Transportation Improvement Program that was initially passed that had designated and identified Harding-McManus as a safety issue, and initially we were budgeted to have that project addressed in fiscal year 2016, which was this year. On July or June 30th of this year, there was an administrative deferment of the improvement of the Harding-McManus Road until 2018. Incidentally, that was only a couple weeks before this application was submitted for rezoning. During all of our discussions with the committee, the commission, anyone else, the hand-wringing about whether or not to proceed, how they could stop, whether they could not stop, that development is inevitable, centered around the fact that they didn't have evidence that the road was hazardous by adding this intersection, and yet they acted as if this study had never been done, and yet it's been documented that it had been done. Is there a plan to now move the project associated with Harding-McManus back to fiscal year 2016? Is there an explanation as to why it was moved just before this application was submitted?
Well, I think there's considerable explanation. First off, the Arts Committee has a little bit of money, and we made an application to accelerate some projects, not only Harding-McManus Road, but also Georgia Hereford Farm Road. And we found out we didn't have some matching money, but the planning on Harding-McManus is underway. I'll ask our Deputy Division Director to give us an update on that.
Yes, we actually have that project is ongoing. The money for the design is approved in this current year, in FY16 through the MPO. The right-of-way acquisition was moved out to future dates. We have $7 million that we have to balance for 3 years with Richmond County, and the numbers have to work out. So if the budget for right-of-way has exceeded the $7 million, it has to be pushed out to further years. So it's all about a balancing act of the money.
But that hasn't been part of any of the conversation with the Stratford residents or the Harding-McManus residents. Neither has the obligation of the developer to coordinate with that plan in whatever he does. He simply said, have a plan, I will go forward with it. There's been no requirements put on him, or at least articulated publicly, that he has to coordinate that with the project that's already been placed.
No, that will take place during the plan review of the engineers looking at what he proposes to do.
And also in the 2035 long-range plan, start on the exhibits page 7, identifying the need for bike and pedestrian rights of ways. Or this road leading to Riverside Elementary, they have 4 designations. It could either be none, poor, fair, or good. This is designated as none, which is worse than poor. And there's been no requirement or conversation about requiring the developer to include that in the bike paths, which is also a requirement of the February 2015 rules passed by this commission, that any developer looking to have access in the road must coordinate with the plan for bicycle paths. That's never been discussed.
That will be automatic in the plan review.
Okay?
Mr. Strickland, can you address that, please? The bike and where we're at with the Greenway and where that would be located with the new plan that we have?
Talking about the vision to the Uchee Creek.
Right.
You'll actually see that at your very next option of that. It does propose a wide multi-use path, and in conjunction.
But everything we're doing, looking at an expansion includes bike lanes.
Absolutely, bike lanes, pedestrian facilities, as Andrew just alluded to, a multi-use trail to allow bicycles and pedestrians to share a multi-use path from Furious Ferry all the way down to the William Few connector. Completely included, yes, sir.
But all of that is required to be submitted by the developer when he submits the plan, including the traffic studies prior to submitting the plan. Here we had a committee that approved the plan for rezoning, which intimates, or it actually finds that it meets all the qualifications, which would include safety and traffic. And yet it requested another traffic study, even though it approved it, which is internally inconsistent in itself, because they're supposed to determine whether it can be approved based on traffic studies, not approve it subject to a traffic study. And so had no information there. The traffic study requirements have not been put up front like they were supposed to. And it appears that this is just simply being pushed through to accommodate a certain developer.
Mr. Boudreau, you keep addressing the plan. We're voting on the zoning.
I understand, but if the zoning...
Plan comes after the zoning.
The plan has been put forward in order to justify the zoning.
Only conceptually.
Only conceptual.
Only conceptual.
I
The details
understand
are worked out later.
But that is to help justify the zoning, which is otherwise not feasible when you take the subdivisions that it would be taking.
It does not justify the zoning. It tells what's going to happen if it is rezoned.
Then in the second packet of materials, we also show on that Exhibit A, it shows a subdivision that has already been established, and that's from 4714 to 4690 Harding McManus Road. All of those lots are subject to the same restrictive covenants. They're all receive their deeds from a common ownership of property. Two of those, and again, looking at the zoning that you're looking at, are proposed to split two of those off and divide it from 2 lots to 18 lots.
Are you talking about the entrance going into the subdivision?
The new entrance, or the one entrance that was proposed initially, with no consideration by the committee or anyone else about the impact on the neighboring properties that has been addressed. If you look at those properties, then you look at picture B.
Well, that request is the one requesting to be withdrawn.
I understand, but this is my question moving forward, and need this information. If you look at what's proposed here compared to all the lots around it, this is where it makes it different than when Stratford was developed, different than when Rivershire was developed, because it wasn't developed in the middle of all the properties that are here. None of this plan comports with anything that surrounds it, and all the properties around it are fully developed. Those are Deerwood Acres, the large lots. Those are large lots on Haley Springs Road. Those are the large lots on Harding McManus Road. None of the properties similar to what is being proposed here. Yet, it seems like it's being passed without any real discussion, any real vetting of the process.
Mr. Boudreau, I'm a little bit lost. We're talking about being passed and being done, and the applicant has requested to withdraw this.
I understand. Well, finally,
what are you really referring to?
Because as you advocate for the development that is supposedly inevitable, this property, they'll ignore the studies that have been done, the widening that should have been done. None of this has been discussed. All of this has been not...
How do you assume it hadn't been discussed?
Because I've
when it's been a part of the discussion the entire time.
Asked for this information at the meetings. The committee meetings didn't raise any of this. We've asked for that information. It hasn't been provided. And then finally, the property that you said is inevitable to be developed into this subdivision is subject to a conservation easement that was granted by this commission in 2012 for 100% agriculture use for 10 years.
Well, we don't.
Now this can now be.
We don't grant conservation easements, and that easement will have to be bought out. There's a penalty for getting out of conservation easement that's already been made aware of the owner, and he's agreed to pay it. That's out of our hands.
But it also makes it inconsistent with the use of the property, intended use of the property, and intended use of surrounding properties. Yes, I understand the application has been withdrawn. The issues won't be going away with the other plans. They're just as big then, whether he tries on an R2 or his rezoning. It's all inappropriate, and it shouldn't be encouraged or promoted by the county.
I hope y'all understood that better than I did, but nevertheless, we'll move on. We have a motion and a second. I'm sorry, come on up to the rostrum.
Kimberly Wintrick, Stratford, Community 206 Sussex Court. I know I deferred to speak, but after I was listening to some of the chatter, I kind of have a question. You all may have heard my name, and I know you've seen the petition, and we're concerned for all Hardy-McManus, not just Stratford. And there's about 1,000 residents that did sign that petition. I know you all saw it. I got confirmation from Mr. Duncan. The builder, he's licensed, and he works for a great company. So I know he has a reputation to uphold. That's why I'm not concerned about what's going to go into R2 personally, because I can't believe he would ruin his own reputation by dropping something ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, ideally, we'd rather not see an entrance going across from Stratford, but I thought, according to the codes, that when it's R2 or PRD, there was still supposed to be 2 access points when it came to a subdivision. Am I wrong?
We do encourage the connectivity. It's not always enforced, it's not always practical. That's what we, as a commission, went back to him and said, if you're going to do this, you have to do 2 entrances and exits. And that's when he said he could not, under this plan, afford to do that.
Okay,
and that's
so,
why he requested a withdrawal.
Okay, I understand that part. So when he comes back to the planning committee with the R2 proposal, it can go through this whole process, and it could still come back with, you need 2 entrances.
No,
Okay.
that's the difference. If he wants to stay with R2 on the large track, stay with R1 on the smaller track where the drive will be, he does not have to come back to planning and zoning, nor to this board.
Okay,
He can submit his plan and goes into the plan review process.
which we haven't hit yet, so we're not familiar with?
Correct.
Got it. I'll get there. Okay.
We hope he does not do that.
Right.
But it is his option.
Absolutely. But there's also codes, regulations, ordinances, environmental laws, and a whole other slew of steps he has to go through if he did R2.
All of that is dealt with at the plan review process.
Absolutely.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay,
No matter
thank you
which
for
way
your time.
he has to go through that process.
Okay.
Whether it's PRD or R2, it's still the same plan review process. The difference is what the conditions are set. If he rezones, they can set additional conditions on them. If he doesn't rezone, they can't.
Okay.
That's the biggest difference.
Okay.
And that's the key, what he just said. Give us a little rundown, Andrew, of the things he'd have to do under a PRD that he does not have to do under an R2.
So PRD requires a little higher level of design. Streets, entities like parks,
Green space.
additional green space other than what the code, without going through the PRD process, without it being known PRD.
Okay.
We'll also add that the plan review process is not necessarily a public process. It doesn't go through these meetings. Everybody is certainly welcome to talk with staff and see those plans, have us walk with you.
And being on the plot that it's on with the watershed and all that green space already, the limitations are already there as to how much building could actually be done on this piece of land. Okay. Thank you.
And Kimberly, that's the one thing that the people don't, I guess, accept is that we are trying to look at the best overall development for the good of Columbia County. And in this case, it would be the PRD with the 2 entrances and exits. It would keep the house values up there. He's got a real good design in Charleston. What is the theme he's looking for, Andrew?
Coastal craftsman.
Coastal.
It's on a watershed, makes sense.
But what it means is the houses will be up off of the ground. There'll be no slab-on grades. I think he's supposed to be up a minimum of, what, 3 feet or so?
18 inches?
But some may be that and some more. The design criteria, as he mentioned, is much more strict under the PRD than it would be in what he could build today. But it's hard for everybody to understand that we don't have an issue in it one way or the other.
Right.
We don't look at tax revenue. We don't look at what it means financially. It's what overall is best for the county.
And we understand that. Honestly, as a community, we all know that.
You
it's
understand
gonna
that.
happen.
I'm not sure some of those petition signers understood that.
I'll try and get them on board. I'll do the best I can. But, you know, having the conversation is part of the process. And
Yeah.
for some people to not feel like they can have a conversation, again, I told you before, it's disheartening. So I'm trying to encourage that. You know, should we attend the meeting if nothing's going to be done? Yeah, you should attend the meeting. Why not? But that's me. Thank you for your time.
Again, saying that the PRD was something that all the staff and the commission went through a long process. About a year ago, we have one of these that's in the plan process right now, nothing on the ground.
Right.
But this was the commission and the staff's desire to see the quality level of development in Columbia County raised.
Unfortunately, it's to the inconvenience of other communities along Hardy McManus with that access point. That's the only issue that everybody's fearful of. And I know you've all gotten your phones blown up and you've gotten an earful along the, wherever you live, or wherever you walk or enter.
It's okay, Kimberly, I asked to do this.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Go back to the motion and the second to allow this withdrawal. No further discussion. All in favor of the withdrawal, please raise your right hand. Second part of this, Mr. Allen?
Yes, sir. Part 2 is, I would like to make a motion to approve the request from the applicant to withdraw without prejudice to rezoning from R1 to R2, tax map 071, parcel 002K and 002J, 2.33 acres located at 4706 and 4710 Hardy McManus Road.
Second.
Any discussion of this second component? All in favor, please raise your right hand.
Yay, I'm done.
No, I believe we'll
Old
get to
business, are you done?
move right into new business, Mr. Allen.
Yes, sir. I would like to make a motion to approve the request for a major revision to the S1 zoning located at 4501 Wrightsboro Road to add a funeral home, office space, and a banquet hall to the property.
Second.
I believe this is the location of Bellevue Gardens. It's requesting some additions.
Correct.
Further discussion? All in favor?
This will require any state issues that are a requirement by the state before they could move forward. Is that correct?
I think funeral homes does come under state jurisdiction. Is that not correct?
Yes. So, yes, sir.
I believe our planning and zoning director, Mr. Jim, has been involved in that already.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Item I2C2, I would like to make a motion to approve the request to rezone 655 Shoffett Road? Shoffett. From S1 to R1.
Second.
I believe this is the property where the maze is, wants to rezone a portion that can be sold for residential.
Correct.
All in favor?
Item I2C3, I would like to make a motion to approve the request to rezone 4282 Bel Air Frontage Road from C2 to M1 with a conditional use for a place of worship.
Second.
Any discussion of this? I think it's self-explanatory. All in favor?
Item I2C4, I make a motion to approve the request for a variance to section 90-140C, landscaping for a portion of tax map 062 parcel 086E, 1.41 acres located at 3012 Gateway Boulevard, currently zone C2, general commercial, to reduce the required landscape strip from 20 feet to a minimum of 10.66 feet.
Second.
I believe this is the location of a new Chick-fil-A, and with the parking requirements, they wound up with a little bit less property for the landscaping.
That's correct. And they also are setting back far enough for our TIA project. So a good bit of the land they purchased will not be usable for
Be
their
taken
park.
up for the other right of way?
Correct.
Okay. All in favor?
I would like to make a motion to approve the first reading to amend Article 2 of Chapter 34, amending the declaration of nuisances, abatement process for nuisance, and the associated violations and penalties for them.
Second.
We've always had a lot of discussion of how much the county can move in to cut grass that's too tall or make repairs on abandoned properties. And I believe this is bringing us in line with the state requirements pertaining to that.
That's correct.
Other discussion? All in favor?
Item I2C6, I would like to make a motion to approve the first reading of Resolution 16-1250, amending the development services fee.
Second.
I think this is a revision in the amount charged for building permits, residential.
Correct. Yes, sir.
All in favor?
And lastly, item I2C7, I would like to make a motion to approve the easement with Georgia Power for Marshall Square line relocation.
Second.
And for those of you that's interested, this is relocating the first step, I guess, of relocating the overhead lines to underground, even though it'll be a kind of a lengthy process.
That's correct. This actually moves the power line one pole over across Evans Town Center to allow the construction of the first building in the plaza.
Okay.
And once they get that building up and going, then Georgia Power can come back and start working on getting everything underground.
Well, that's a great step on the appearance of that area. Further discussion? All in favor? I don't believe we have any legal matters.
No legal matters tonight.
We do have some property acquisition items. Trying to find out who's got those motions, but
Mine, sir.
whoever knows, go right ahead.
Only one motion. I would like to make a motion to approve the cost to cure items on the Duke Road paving project, parcel 042160 Lynn K. Hubbard, in the amount of $21,486. Parcel 042161 Clarence E. Leonard, in the amount of $7,975. And parcel 042158B, Michael and Michelle H. Hammock, in the amount of $8,781.
Second.
Any discussion of these items to clear up these right-of-way items?
The right-of-way was donated.
This is the improvements that were done to the land, so this will reimburse them for their landscaping and
I guess destruction caused by the
Fence.
right-of-way.
Moving fences.
moving
Fences.
correct.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Is there any other business to come before this meeting? Any additional requests to speak? Any commissioner comments?
My monitor doesn't work.
Got it.
I kept up with it.
I got it.
That might be intentional.
Might be.
No, you can read.
You want us to turn this one around over here?
I can see it.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion to be done with this?
Adjourn. I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned.
Light reading tonight.
Where is it?